Hello everyone, welcome back to the Responsible and Adventurous Comic Vault. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
And Eric and I are going to tackle the third volume of Ultimate Spider-Man by Brian Michael Bendis. We are trying to knock one of these out every omnibus, and luckily we have succeeded in getting to one more of these. So this is, I almost said our introduction to Dr. Octopus. It's not. We see him in the first arc.
Yeah.
But this is our, this is his debut as Dr. Octopus in all of his six-armed glory. And so we've got Dr. Octopus, and we've got Kraven the Hunter, who's hilarious, and that whole thing. I had heard about that, and kind of wish I hadn't, because I knew where that was going. And it's really amusing. It's a bunch of build up for nothing. It's fantastic. But yeah, why don't we go ahead and jump into this?
Okay. Where do you want to start? Let's start with Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
So
she's fascinating. Gwen Stacy, I did not know anything about.
That's what I was gonna say. You didn't know anything about Ultimate Gwen Stacy.
So,
and if you did, you probably see her later, and she's kind of different later. It's a whole thing. I'm not gonna go into it.
Does she get retconned, or does she just evolve into a different character? Does she get past this kind of punk phase? Or does he just decide, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore?
I can't.
You don't want to tell me?
I can't explain.
Okay.
Something happens.
Does it give away too much, or
yes.
is it impossible to explain?
No, something happens.
Okay.
And after that point, she's a completely different character.
Oh, weird. Okay.
And there are reasons. We'll talk about it eventually when we get there. That's like literally in the late hundreds.
I was of two minds initially
the early hundreds
about her, and I very quickly came to love her. And I think it's very difficult not to, right? Like,
for some reason, he switched Gwen Stacy and Mary Jane.
And that's the thing that really gave me pause, where I'm like, okay, so you're just trying not to do the same thing that's been done before, so you just made these characters kind of the opposite of them?
That's not why I think he did it. Bendis is a big proponent of Mary Jane and Peter Parker being together, and so I think he intentionally makes Mary Jane the perfect girl. And then he makes Gwen Stacy the bad girl.
She's the bad girl, yeah.
Yeah. And I think the reason we do this
is the bad girl who keeps saying things that make sense.
Yes.
And I love that.
She's not a complete idiot. No, she's...
Well, it's not just that she's not a complete idiot. The reason she's the way she does she is because she doesn't buy into people's BS, and she wants to be like real, and I don't know, I found all of that kind of compelling.
She feels a lot like what I would think you would do with a modern update of the 60s Mary Jane.
Yeah.
Where she's like the wild party girl kind of thing. Like, this kind of feels like a pretty good update on that. But I really think the reason we do that is because...
Yeah, and she's got that high school philosopher thing that we're kind of doing with MJ in Homecoming.
Yeah, yeah. No, she's really cool.
I think one of my favorite things and has kind of a perfectly reasonable explanation for that, even though she's wrong. I mean,
well, she has no explanation for bringing it. She has an explanation for pulling it out.
For pulling it out, yeah. Well, okay, but I guess you can extrapolate. She brings it in case something goes down.
Yeah, it could be just... I mean, it's probably just a self-defense thing, right? Like, her dad's a cop. She knows how to defend herself. I also like that completely buy that she's the way she is, partially because her dad's a cop.
I like that a lot, yeah.
I really buy their dynamic.
That was one of the big things that turned me around on the idea, where it stops seeming like it's... Like, even if the initial motivation for Bendis doing it is, I just want her to be different from what she was before, it starts to seem like an organic thing that might have happened to her.
It's ultimate.
And he's starting to get a lot better by this volume at the really dramatic, like, yelly conversations without them feeling melodramatic.
You're talking about
well, there's two of them.
There's a big one on May.
Right, but I mention it now because of
and then the
fight with her and her dad,
yeah,
which I think is pretty well written. And then the scene at the end with, like you say, Peter Parker and Aunt May, where she grounds him, works. It's really good. You had a shouting match between them early on that I didn't like, but this one's all right.
Do you like me, or is that the previous arc? Where Aunt May asks Peter Parker if do you like me?
I think that's the previous arc.
Is that the previous arc? Okay. Okay, I couldn't remember.
It might have even been the same scene. There's a scene where some of it's well written, but it goes too far. Or maybe it wasn't even a shouting match. The big one I remember not liking was from the previous volume, where she goes too far in assuming that he and Mary Jane had sex in his room.
Which wasn't even like a yelly thing. It was it was almost playful, but it went too far.
It felt bad TV to me.
Yeah, no, and that's fair.
This didn't have that, I don't think, anywhere.
No, I've got issues with this arc.
Oh, do you? Okay.
I think that
overall I thought it was really solid. Yeah.
I also think this is way wordier than the previous two arcs, unnecessarily.
Yeah, okay, I had that too.
It's really wordy for no reason.
There are news broadcasts that you could just cut completely.
Yep.
Like, why is this here?
Yep.
Like, you're not Miller, why are you doing that?
Yeah. It doesn't add anything.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. Like, I don't...
He also makes Justin Hammer Southern for no discernible... I didn't remember that at all. I was like, oh, he's Southern. Sometimes,
and
most of the time.
And only with one vowel. If he says my, it's M-A-H, and that's it. It's like, he's rogue now. Okay. Now, I don't know why he did that. When I first saw that character, I thought for a second it was Silvermane. Like, he seems like a Southern Silvermane.
That's fair.
I don't know why he's Justin... Is Justin Hammer usually elderly?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, Justin Hammer is originally based on Peter Cushing, visually.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's cool.
Yep.
Well, you learn something new every day. I don't know a lot about Justin Hammer.
I mean, that's fair. If we ever redeem the bottle.
I thought that was a weird character choice. Do you agree?
It is a very strange character
That's
choice.
going to be Dr. Octopus's motivation, is I want to murder Justin Hammer, of all people. I didn't
also not, but I liked it because I was like, you'll never get this again.
Sure.
We're like, Bendis reads comics. Bendis knows who characters are.
Yeah.
This is a character that's never been well, he was in the Iron Man cartoon, but nobody watched that. But this is a character nobody knows. I'm going to use him because I actually read comics.
There's another reference to Patsy Walker. Is that a brand Bendis creation?
No.
Or, okay.
No, Patsy Walker is pre-Stan Lee, I think. It's pre like the Marvel. She starts as like a romance character.
Really?
And they bring her back.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I think Patsy Walker was referenced in the previous one too. I think he just kept using that name.
She was. That's why I was wondering.
I don't think it's the same character. Just like we have a reference to Eddie Brock here, and that's not going to be Eddie Brock in 2 volumes.
That I knew because I have read that. I've read the Venom trade, and I was like, that's
pretty soon.
Who is this kid? I can't wait to read that again. It's wonderful.
But yeah, no, and it's just an arm. It's just yes, Eddie Brock, and there's like an arm.
It's an arm, but then I think you actually see him in another panel, and then I didn't know why it was just an arm.
I don't think
maybe I'm wrong.
I didn't see him. I think at this point we're still. I think that's been screwing with people. I think at this point
there were some weird choices
still,
of camera placement like that.
I'm pretty sure he's still on his. I will not do Venom. I don't like Venom. I don't think he's interesting. He starts in that place when he starts Ultimate Spider-Man.
Oh, he's Sam Raimi, is he?
Yeah. Oh, he's very Sam Raimi. I think he's still there when he's here.
Okay.
Where he's like, this is what you guys get. You get a name.
So, I don't mean to be too easy on this art, because everything you're complaining about I agree with, but just as we were getting into it, I wasn't immediately remembering things I didn't like, because it just seemed like a solid, next chapter in the saga.
All the character stuff is good, I think.
Yeah. As I'm reading it, I'm not thinking Doc Ock isn't interesting. It's when I get to the end of it and I realize, oh, he's got nothing else.
Yeah.
Okay, he's just going to be a revenge. Maybe he's interesting later, but
and that was part of it for me. Was I was like, oh, Ultimate Doc Ock is really interesting. This is not him.
Okay.
He's got amnesia.
Yeah,
he's not even who he was before.
I don't know why they did that, but that reads like Bendis. Because this is the thing I've learned from you. Like, part of the problem is, I've read quite a bit of Bendis, but you've read a lot more, so it's hard not to look at Bendis through your lens. Because I go, okay, well, Eric has told me that Bendis writes bad villains, and
this is a pretty typical Bendis villain.
It is, and so was Green Goblin first time out.
Yeah.
And they both kind of degenerate into...
And Electro.
Yeah. But, like, especially those two, they kind of just degenerate into inhuman monsters. I mean, Doc Ock is still a person, but he doesn't remember anything about who he is, so he's not even hardly responsible for anything.
They're just kind of like forces of nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I know why he has amnesia.
But I also think it's reading, especially because he has a lot of dialogue, it's reading like I'm supposed to think he's interesting.
I think you're right. That's also how it read to me. Which is also a Bendis thing. Is I think he thinks he writes interesting villains sometimes.
So can I tell you why it's difficult for me today to keep some of this straight, and why Doc Ock especially?
Because he's in the Spider-Man game.
Yeah, so the characterization for him in the PS4 Spider-Man game is kind of interesting, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on when I do a review of this. Although I don't know how much I want to talk about it because you haven't played it yet, and I don't want to give too much. I don't know how I'm going to review this yet. I may do a real.
I mean, I've had quite a bit spoiled for me.
Have you really? I might do that sucks. Because it was fun to get it as it went along. I might do a real general thing with it, and then later on do something, or maybe I'll split it up. And if you don't care about spoilers, I'll just spoil it. But we'll talk about it anyway. But I kept kind of mixing things up in my mind because I didn't realize the next thing I was going to do is read another Doc Ock story, and this is Peter going around saying like, "Who's this Doc Ock guy?" And then in the thing I just finished today, they're like really close, and he's his major mentor, and it was just really strange going from one to the other.
I think I know why Doc Ock has amnesia. I think it's because Bendis wrote himself into a... Well, I don't think it's Bendis' fault. It might be Jemas. Bill Jemas, because he co-plots that first arc. But he wanted to do a Doc Ock story. Didn't want it to be personally tied to Peter because he was doing other stuff with Peter.
Okay.
But he knows who he is. So we just kind of, it's just an excuse to do a Doc Ock story, but not have to deal with that yet.
But what's weird about that
and also because we're going to do Goblin next.
Okay, here's why I think that's weird.
That's my assumption. I don't know if that's true. That's just what I'm guessing.
Yeah, but...
It's like he wrote himself into a corner.
There's no reason for him to have amnesia if that's not the case, because he's going to get his memories back by the end of the story, right? So, or at least enough to remember that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, because that's how this arc ends, is, oh, I know Peter Parker's Spider-Man. So, and that made me wonder how much amnesia he had, or if it's wearing off. I don't know what that's about. So, what I don't get is, why wouldn't you just wait until you wanted to tell this guy puts two and two together and does something with it story, and just make this guy somebody else?
Yeah,
why does he need to be Doc Ock?
I don't know.
Because he doesn't.
Does he want to do a Doc Ock story early? I don't know.
Or
he's one of the big nemesis.
Yeah, like, is he trying to line up some of the villains that match up with early villains in Stan Lee?
Certainly not.
Is he not doing that?
I don't think so. Well, because...
that's what he does with the Enforcers. They're that early because it's that early.
That's true, and Electro's there too, but... Like, we do Green Goblin, Enforcers and Electro, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, and then we're kind of not going to have a villain, and then Venom, and then...
yeah.
Like, no, we're not doing
Venom was that early.
Yeah, no, Venom is in the next one of these.
Okay, look, we might be doing it right now, and then we get away from it immediately, is what I'm saying.
I just think it's because Doc Ock's the big one.
Okay.
Like him and Green Goblin. Like, especially if you're reading this while it's coming out, year one, I mean, I guess you have Green Goblin, but like year two is Green Goblin and Doc Ock. Those are the two story arcs you do in year two. So, I don't know, maybe. I'm not sure. No, I just...
In this one, the interesting stuff is more of the personal stuff, but then of course it's Bendis.
Yes, yeah.
And most of the time that is the case.
I mean, that's the case for most of Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But here, it was annoying to me because it was so overwritten. When I did get to the stuff where I'm like, yeah, like if there was like a couple of lines of dialogue, this would be fun. Everyone's talking so much.
Like he's forgetting that in Spider-Man, for the most part, until you get to like a big epic or something, do you agree with this? Much of the time in Spider-Man, I'd say 60-70% of the time, the villain fights are the B story.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say that's fair.
Like a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's certainly in the background, and sometimes it's very, very intertwined with the personal stuff.
Or usually it's the personal stuff is actually the ongoing story. Right. Like if you read like 5 issues.
That's what I mean. That's the A story.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by A story. Is that's the stuff that's the important thing that's like in the forefront, keeps going.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of how Ultimate Spider-Man operates. And there's some really emotional stuff. I think it's too long. It's 7 issues, which is one of the longest.
Oh, was it 7?
It's 7.
It was impossible to tell.
I only know that because it says it in the end, where like there's like a letter where they're talking about like Bendis' plans for the future, and like one of them was like it's like 7 was too long. We're gonna pull it back and make the stories 4 or 5, and I guess we settle on 6 because like from here out, almost all of them are 6.
Why can't they just break it up in the trade with the covers?
That's got to be this release. This release is
It's a weird release.
But it's like 7. You know what's interesting though?
And the last couple we didn't review in hardcover. We had the trade paperbacks.
We had the Ultimate Editions.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah. What's interesting is this has an introduction from Bendis. And it's basically just him singing the praises of Bagley. And one of the things that he mentions in this introduction is how Bagley's art is so amazing he'll pull dialogue out. He pulls out whole swaths of dialogue. What was this like before? What was it like before he pulled it out? Because Bagley's so good, he can just do it with a look. You just get it. You don't need to talk.
So I have a theory. He wrote this is my theory. He wrote the first 2 arcs just from like memory of Spider-Man he'd read in the past, and then before he wrote 3, for whatever reason, he decided to sit down and read all of Stan Lee.
Yep.
And then over a weekend he writes this.
Yep. Oh man, this has the Kong thing.
It's
I love the Kong thing.
That was the next thing I was going to bring up, actually, yeah. It's not wordy in the way Stan Lee is wordy, but...
No, it's wordy in the way, like, Claremont's wordy. There are some pages that look like Claremont pages. Specifically with Doc Ock. Where it's just, like, balloons of text.
And, like, always, I don't know if I can find a good example, there are places where I get why conversations are going on longer than they generally would, and that's in a comic book anyway, and that's a Bendis staple, because he writes like he's doing television or making a movie.
In comparison
to
the previous 2 arcs, it felt, like, so wordy.
And then, when you get to action scenes, they're so dynamic and thrilling that you're like, why is there so much dialogue?
Yeah, yeah.
Because like it messes
that's the stuff you would pull the dialogue out of. I would think.
Well, and it's not even that there's the thing is there's not even on pages like this like too much dialogue.
That's a great page.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
But the issue is you're messing with the pacing.
Yeah.
Because when you get to these, it's like,
you want to go
oh yeah,
fast,
that's right. I'm reading a comic book.
It's exciting.
Not a novel. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
I love that Sandman thing.
With the Kong thing, yeah, that was weird and sad. With the Kong thing, oh, and then I guess we got to talk about Kraven.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna assume that Kong probably keeps assuming that that's Peter Parker and doesn't let go of it, or that Peter Parker's Spider-Man and doesn't let go of it. Does he?
Yeah.
That's disappointing because he's like so totally sure of it. And at first, it doesn't seem like he's being deterred by the fact that people around him don't.
No, he's deterred by Peter Parker crying.
Oh yeah, okay.
No, but I think that's the first inkling that Bendis is going to do something with Kong, and that Kong is going to evolve. And
oh yeah, you know what? I forgot about that. Yeah, so Peter kind of sets it up so that he looks like he could not possibly be Spider-Man.
Yeah, yeah. Which is way better than Stan Lee's version, which is, hey Peter, there's like a museum exhibit on spiders. You want to go? Ew, spiders!
Yes.
So gross.
That's the best. It's like, well, that guy can't be Spider-Man, clearly. It's like, but here's the thing. Even here, because the thing you expect is that in that scene is that Flash Thompson or somebody right after that would be like, okay, but if you were Spider-Man, that's what you'd say.
Yeah.
And that's what Kong should say.
Yeah.
Because like he kicks him into a locker. And I really like that moment where Peter's like, I'm gonna have to pretend to be the wimp again.
Yeah.
You know? And then he does, and he cries. And then Kong's like, oh, I guess this guy can't be Spider-Man. And I'm like, I don't know. I think the next thing because he's being smarter than we thought he was, and then he goes back to being dumb again. And I don't like that. Like
okay.
he should be like, well, now wait a minute. If you were Spider-Man, this is what you would do. Because he puts too many things together, and they don't look too conspiratorial.
Yeah.
He's got like. I don't like this. And again, this is a typical kind of TV thing. I don't like it when characters have a thing seemingly proven to them, and then they discount all the things that weren't explained. Like he's making a case, and his case is, here are the things that I've dealt with Peter Parker that don't add up. Why doesn't he at the very least look for a different explanation? Mm. He should still be like. He shouldn't be like, oh well, this explains everything. No, it doesn't. Because you still don't know why he was able to, take you that one time and all those other examples.
Yeah.
So that's my issue with that.
I like it.
Okay.
It feels realistic to me.
I just told you why it's not.
Okay, but I'm going to explain to you why it is.
Okay, alright, go ahead.
So, he's a smarter guy who's spent his entire life having people tell him he's dumb.
Right,
and
that's true.
And that he recedes into himself. And so, when he thinks he has this big thought, and he goes, here's this thought, and everyone around him just goes, no, you're dumb. Stop doing that. Like you're being dumb. He's like, oh, I guess I am being dumb.
So he just gives up.
Yeah.
Stops thinking.
That's how I read it.
Okay.
I also know where he's going because Kong is one of the greatest things about Ultimate Spider-Man.
I think you're right. Well, and that's why I hesitate being too critical of a thing that I know you've read that I've not.
No, and
yet.
that's fair. Well, I mean, in this isolated thing, like I think that's fair criticism. I didn't read it that way because I know what Kong is, or I know who Kong is. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that read going through it. I just didn't have that. It felt natural to me.
Yeah. No, you're probably right.
Also, another thing I think is really natural, I really liked, is the MJ being kind of jealous of Gwen Stacy. I really liked that. It wasn't too melodramatic, wasn't too overblown.
He's playing with that. He's playing that with kid gloves because he doesn't want it to be perfect, but he also doesn't want to just play that for forced drama, where like, it's your typical love triangle, and because the thing is, yeah, I bought that, and I think that's a hard thing to buy because Peter hasn't spent much time with her yet. Mary Jane didn't walk in on them doing anything.
But
didn't
the
do that whole
teenagers,
thing.
and she's really cool.
Yeah.
Because also, she's impressed by her, which means Peter must be impressed by her.
Yeah. Well, and they made a point of the midriff thing, which I really like, because you get the sense, if I'm reading it right, that Mary Jane is, she doesn't flaunt her sexuality or anything, but, she also, wants to make sure that Peter's still noticing her. They have that joke about, if you put on the Spider-Man suit, you'd, cut her off. And she goes, that's what you'd want, and I like that exchange. I thought that was great.
And it feels like a real...
But, if you're Mary Jane, yeah, you're threatened by Gwen Stacy.
Yeah. Well, because...
Especially because she's also smart, and she's smart in a different way than Mary Jane is. She's got this street smarts thing, and Mary Jane's all book smarts, just like Peter Parker. Or is she maybe more street smart than Peter Parker is? I guess I don't know that, but...
Who is more street smart?
Mary Jane.
Is she more street smart than her?
Yeah, I don't
know.
I would say probably not.
It's... At the beginning of Ultimate Spider-Man, no, but it's that thing that we always do with Spider-Man. He's a completely different character. The second he's Spider-Man, this character is I wouldn't think she's any more street smart than.
Yeah.
But no, she it's an insecurity thing,
right?
Which makes sense because one we already know that she comes from a broken home. I'm pretty sure last arc we talk about the fact that her dad's. I don't know if he's abusive. It's not a good home life. I want to say there's a thing about her dad telling her bad things in the previous arc of this.
And that's an interesting parallel that
she doesn't have a lot of confidence.
That's an interesting parallel that Gwen looks like what you might expect Mary Jane to be like if she has a bad home life, but that's not always how it works out. And so she's the rebellious teenager, and her dad's a cop, and she sees that world. And
no, I think we're doing some really. I think Bendis is doing some really really layered, nuanced stuff with all of that, and it feels. I mean, they're teenagers, but also adults also have that, right? We're you don't have great self-esteem or self-confidence, or whatever, and it's really easy to be like, oh, but this person is so much more interesting. Surely they're more interested in this person. They're so much more interesting. So yeah, no, that all felt. I really liked how subtle it was, and not just they make eye contact, and all of a sudden Mary Jane's like, "Oh, you're into her, aren't you?"
Yeah.
It felt like insecurity seeping out as opposed to.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, she's wearing it on her sleeve and trying not to because she knows she would be unfair if she started calling him out because he hasn't done anything. But she can't help but feel the way she feels.
Yeah.
And that's why she says, "No, I'm fine," but then doesn't want to keep having the conversation, so she walks away.
Because you can't help. Because she can't help.
She's not punishing him. She doesn't want it. She doesn't want him to see her that way. No, that's really good.
No, it felt nuanced.
Again, the scene at the end with Aunt May works really well for me because so often characters like that, especially Aunt May early on in older Spider-Man stuff. I think you really have to put yourself back in this period before we had ever a more believable and more wise and aware of her surroundings, Aunt May.
I think this is the first time we ever do it.
Yeah.
Because JMS is right after this, and he does it too.
Because this Aunt May, yeah, exactly.
And when she dies. That's the one time before this.
This Aunt May is, putting the obvious things together, and she's like, you're lying to me, and you can't be doing the things that you're claiming you're doing. And I like the breakdown of all the of all the lies, where she's like, "Yeah, I'm not an idiot. Of course, I called Mary Jane's house, and I checked with the library, and I checked, like all these things that these
where
places
he keeps lying.
Yeah,
and she's like, "No, I checked there, and I checked. Yeah, no, it's really good."
And like Stan Lee was trying to be realistic, at least in his mind. At the time, in the same, because also he knows his audience and stuff.
Yeah.
But the idea that a superhero's life would be, especially if you're a teenager, would be really challenging because of all the personal problems. So he would pick things like, well, let's make Aunt May sick.
Yeah.
But that would come up and maybe be a problem sometimes. But more often you deal with things like this is what Power Rangers should have done. Where it's like, well, how in the world can you go fight crime and fight the bad guys when you have to deal with things like being grounded and having homework and stuff like that?
I want someone to count the number of heart attacks Aunt May has had throughout the...
It happens over and over again.
So many heart attacks. It's a much more realistic portrayal of what it would be like as a teenage superhero, I think.
It'd be impossible.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the things I actually really gave Teen Wolf Season 1, is they deal with, he hasn't been going to class. He's getting D's and stuff. Of course he is. Mm-hmm. He's a werewolf. He's going to go fight werewolves.
As you do.
And this does that.
Do you want to talk about Kraven?
Yeah, I forgot about Kraven. So
Kraven is...
Kraven
would only exist the year this comic comes out.
That's right.
Because he's Crocodile... He's
Steve Irwin.
But like a mean Steve Irwin?
This is 4 or 5 years before Steve Irwin passes.
Yeah. It might even be more. When did Steve Irwin pass?
2006.
Is it 6?
It's 6.
Okay, so yeah, you're right. Okay, I thought he passed like 08, 09.
Yeah.
Wow,
It's
okay.
6.
So yeah, he's Steve Irwin, but like kind of mixed with like a reality TV show.
Yeah, and...
Because I like how fake it is, and how fake that he knows it is, kind of.
Well, and the thing is, he's constantly playing a character, and you don't know all the way through if this is just Kraven's way to do what he does, and that he's actually Comic Kraven, and then you see his wife, and you're like, well, I know what she's like in regular Spider-Man comics, and it's like, maybe this is just Kraven, and then he fights Spider-Man for 3 seconds and loses, and you're like,
He has one punch. He just uppercut.
And he has, his argument with his producers where he's like, this seems too gimmicky. I don't know if I want to do this. And then I'm assuming, like, retroactively, if I read this again, I feel like I'd see more, because my assumption is that conversation was about he knows he can't fight Spider-Man. Like, that's the real reason he doesn't want to do it. But he's constantly like putting on this act.
Oh, that's not how I.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, here's the unfortunate thing. So there are two places you would expect that to go coming out of this arc, which is either he just never shows up again.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Or like he goes on like a revenge path and like maybe tries to get superpowers.
Or he just trains really hard and
that's the other way. It kind of doesn't go either. He just kind of comes back later, and Norman Osborn's like, "Here's some superpowers beyond the Secret Six," and like, we never do anything with him again. He's just there.
He's just a placeholder villain.
That's how I remember it. Maybe we'll go back to it. I'm like, oh no, there is this great moment with Kraven. I don't think Kraven ever has a moment
that's
again.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem with doing this the problem with doing this way is you don't have a character that you can like. You are kind of making a parody of that character, and anybody that really likes Kraven and is a big fan of like Kraven's Last Hunt and stuff is maybe not going to appreciate that. But it's a different. It's a new take on it. I really like that.
You'd be a big fan of, right? Like all the Kraven fans, like, well, we have Kraven's Last Hunt.
At the time, I don't know if after that we've done anything cool with him.
I mean, he was dead for a long time. He's back now.
Yeah,
he had like 15 kids. They're all something to Hunter.
I know that, but yeah, no, I mean, I thought it was hilarious.
It's really funny. I also like Spider-Man taking down Doc Ock's pants. That feels like a thing that I shouldn't like.
It seems like a thing he would do. So
yeah,
that's what works. There's some really great quips in this, of course.
Yeah.
One of my I sent you the picture of it because I loved it so much when he's like, well, Doc Ock, you could volunteer as a kiddie ride. I thought that was really funny.
That's pretty good. I like him making fun of his bowl cut, where he's like, you don't have to get your hair cut like that if you don't want to. No one's making you do this. Yeah,
that was really funny.
And then Doc Ock's big comeback is, I like my hair.
I like my hair. That seems like a really Bendis line.
No, it's fun. I think it's
the weakest arc we've read.
Yes, I agree.
Even with all the problems they have, overall, because the character work is better than the first arc.
Yes. Yes.
And Gwen Stacy is set up.
It's just not as smooth to read.
Well.
I don't think.
No, certainly not.
And a lot of that's, I think, a lot of it is because it's so wordy. I think it just slows the pacing down.
And
it feels more like a slog. It's not a slog, but it feels more like a slog than the previous 2 arcs.
And in some ways, it almost reads like another first arc because it's so set-up-y.
Mm-hmm.
And like the last arc felt like we were really rolling into some stuff, and then this is almost like we're starting some things.
Now, as I recall, the next arc is great. So.
That's good because I know it's Green Goblin.
It's the big Green Goblin one. I
didn't like him early on, so.
No, he gets character in the bed. Well, and like coming out of Ultimate Spider-Man, the 3 great villains for me, like most of them are disposable. You have Ultimate Doc Ock, Ultimate Green Goblin, Ultimate Kingpin. Like those are the villains, and Ultimate Mysterio, but then he ruins that with Spider-Man.
His Venom's really good though.
Yes.
Or is it just Eddie Brock?
It's just Eddie Brock.
Is it just Eddie Brock? Is it
just Eddie Brock?
That like the actual Venom part's not great?
I mean, he's just a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's that Bendis thing.
I don't remember. All I remember from that is the friendship is really great and sadly and really tragic.
Yeah, and there's a great scene with Gwen Stacy. But,
and I think the reason I love that so much was I feel like I came up with that at one time where I was like, well, if I was going to redo Eddie Brock and Peter Brock, I'd make them friends, you know? And then I see it done really well. I'm like, yes.
And do that in Spectacular, too.
Yeah.
A little bit different. He's not such a scumbag, but yeah. Because he is a scumbag. But, yeah. It's not the best arc. But I'm really excited to get to the next one. Because the next one is really good. Or I remember it being really good. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's also, like, way too wordy. I don't think so.
The PS4 Spider-Man game is pulling a little bit from that as far as Doc Ock goes. That's not majoritively where it's going, what it's pulling from, but
I'm pretty sure that influenced the
his
original...
background with Oscorp, certainly.
And I think that's the first time we ever do that. We do that a lot after this.
Yeah.
Spectacular Spider-Man does that. We definitely would have done it with Amazing Spider if we kept going.
Well, I guess that means they could have. Yeah, I guess that means they might have been looking at that stuff before Spectacular before they even looked at Ultimate. But, well, I say that. I mean, that game is Chris S. Gage and Slot, so I mean they would know all that stuff.
Yeah. Crap. What was I gonna say?
Sorry.
I was gonna say something about Spider-Man. So Spider-Man 2, the game.
I mean, I figured.
Has a moment that I'm convinced is pulled from that specific arc.
Oh, really?
Do you remember the Mysterio fight?
Yeah.
Do you remember the Mysterio?
That's one of the one things I remember.
He shows up and
the actual story stuff.
And you're like, let's do this.
It's side missions for a million years.
We're just like, all right, we're gonna fight Mysterio. It's like life bar. And you're like, oh man. 1 punch, life bar.
I don't remember that. That's really funny. What?
Yeah, you take out Mysterio with 1 punch.
That's really funny. Well, that's going to be it for us.
Voiced by Bruce Campbell.
With yeah, that's right. I think that's right.
I think so. I might be wrong.
I think that's right. I mean, Bruce Campbell's also just the narrator in that, but
I think he's the narrator in the first one.
No,
right?
he's in the second one.
Oh, he's the second one too. Okay. Anyways.
Yeah, because he does he takes you through the tutorial and stuff. I'm pretty sure that's right.
I know he does in the first one.
I mean, I don't think
I played the first one much more than I played the second.
I'm almost positive I've never played the first one.
Okay.
And I have experienced the Bruce Campbell voiceover, so it must have been too.
Did you play the PlayStation Spider-Man? Or the 64 Spider-Man, whichever? Okay, so the Spider-Man movie is kind of the last version of, or the last iteration of that version of Spider-Man. We're like, that's how we do Spider-Man games. And Spider-Man 2 games comes out, and it's...
Open world, yeah.
Yeah.
Not that they're all open world after that.
No. But everyone will complain endlessly if it's not.
Sort of, but the Shattered, whatever it's called.
Dimensions.
Is it Shattered Dimensions?
Yeah.
I just couldn't... I was like, no, it's Lego Dimensions. No, it is Shattered Dimensions. But that game and then the sequel to it, like, I don't think people complain that wasn't open world.
I remember people complaining about it being so confining. Specifically the second one, because it's all in one building.
Oh, that's fair. I haven't played that. I didn't know that.
Did you ever do the Ultimate Spider-Man game?
Briefly. I remember yeah, I didn't play it much. I think I rented it once and played it for a couple hours. I remember that really interesting kind of comic aesthetic it had.
So the interesting thing about that is it's written by Bendis.
And that's a Venom game, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's written by Bendis. Bendis, when it comes out, Bendis says this is canon. We just haven't gotten to it yet.
We could have saved all this for the video game.
Yeah, that's
video we're gonna make
that's
later.
true. That's true. But then you will get to an arc that is the video game. It's like 5 years later, and like feels like you're reading.
In Ultimate?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think you told me about that.
Ultimate Spider-Man, the video game. Bendis writes it, says it's canon, and he's actually like, it must have things planned out because there were like people know his identity that didn't know his identity in the comics when that game came out, and they find out later. But we eventually get to the point where it's supposed to take place, and he just kind of does it as an arc. And I've never thought that arc worked, so it'll be interesting. It feels like a game truncated into 6 issues. It'll be interesting to see.
Should I play the game first or not?
I don't know.
Should we see if like if I think it reads fine, just not knowing the material?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, well, that'll be interesting. All right, well,
and that's not till like 140 or something, or earlier than that, like 120, I think, around the 120s.
On the omnibus, we're going to move on now, and we're going to do how we felt about. Eric and I have several movies to talk about. In fact, we're going to split how we felt about again into 2 videos this time because we have enough movies. One video, so we'll do our regular how we felt about, and Eric and I have a few movies that we both watched, and we'll go back and forth a little bit. And then the second video is just going to be how Eric felt about, and Eric's going to do the 3 movies that he watched this last time on his own, as his own video. Sure. So thanks a lot for watching, folks. We sure appreciate it. If you're watching in the omnibus playlist, just let it keep rolling. If you would like to hear us talk about The Predator and some other movies. And in the meantime, I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
Thanks everybody for watching.